Get that blonde hair. You trying to get people set up? All that blonde hair everywhere.
I mean, just marking my territory.
I got a vacuum. First of all, I'm finna vacuum as soon as you leave.
Is that what
The studio, not my home.
Yeah.
Oh God! I'm like throwing
Right over
the equipment.
And whenever you see this,
You're a snitch.
dog. The video's a snitch.
Shout out Ant. Because
Yo.
Ant from CA. I think this is it. I'm pretty sure it is.
It is.
But he lets us use his podcast equipment, and these mics are fire. Like everybody who's always in my comments talking about Carlie's voice, like I like her voice too, but these mics are fire.
These mics are fire.
And we
The
got
whole
the
setup
whole
is fire.
soundboard and everything. Like we feel professional, so we appreciate that you guys appreciate. We appreciate that you appreciate the professionalism.
Yes, and we would not have this. Yeah, without Ant. So shout out to Ant. Good pot almighty.
And I did not get water on your soundboard.
The video might prove otherwise. However,
if the video gets out.
Which it will.
That's always the thing. That's why I'm the editor.
That's true. That's true.
I get
She
to
just
control.
likes having control.
I'm like in propaganda mode. Like I get to control what goes out.
She just likes to have control, y'all.
I do. I'm working on that actually.
It's a thing. But I think that's a good segue.
We're not gonna start this out with my issues. I don't even think we like really started anyway. We're just like talking.
We did.
But we did want to shout out Ant though, for real.
Yeah, no, Ant's awesome. Shout out to Ant. All the help setting us up.
Right. Yeah, he even sets it up for us. Like, wow, that's great. If anybody else needs podcast equipment in LA, hit him up. It's only like $300 an hour.
You know,
just trying to get him paid.
Chump change. For all of this. And
for
the quality.
A real one.
And for all the quality, customer service.
Yeah, like, come on. Carlie paid him in cookies, but, I bake real cookies. Whoa.
I bake homemade cookies and I brought some to the house.
This is out of line.
This is so
Carlie,
out of
what are we
line.
talking about this week?
Man, okay, so we're talking about the unsexy side of entrepreneurship. Dun dun dun. And what that means is like it is always shown as like the entrepreneur is so revered, like it's this thing and it's so great and it's amazing, and you see all these rags to riches stories of people building companies out of their basement. Now they're multi-billion-dollar unicorn companies and all these things, but rarely do they talk about the behind-the-scenes things. And I think that that's important to be transparent and genuine along the journey of being an entrepreneur.
Or you don't talk about it until after they've become like a zillionaire. And now it's like, yes, but remember he was in the basement, or remember when he had $2. And it's like, dog, but while you're in it, it does not feel that awesome all the time. I think more often it does not feel awesome, to be quite frank with you. But yeah, like I think it's important that we tell more of the stories about keeping it real with entrepreneurship, starting businesses now instead of after you made it. And it's like, yeah, it was nothing. Like, of course I had $2 for like 4 weeks one time, but I made it. And it's like, nah,
yeah, you gotta talk about that. And
you gotta talk about that.
And so often it's the opposite. Like you literally just hear about, this, and all of a sudden he signed $1 billion deal, and it's like, well, what happened in the meantime, in between time?
And which makes sense, because I'm not mad at anybody not caring about what I'm doing if it ain't popped yet, but for the people who always like hit us up and they're like, wow, oh my gosh, you're so inspiring, you're so motivational, everything. Or when people hit me and say things like, you look so successful, and I'm like, I get that, and I want to appreciate those compliments and thank you, I appreciate it, but I always want to make sure to tell people like, yeah, but it's not, it's not a cakewalk though, and I don't consider myself successful yet. Like, I still try to figure out how to pay my rent sometimes. Like, it's not, it's not all awesome all the time. But at the same time, I still recognize that it's important that, I appreciate those comments, because for a lot of people, just even getting started is like a big thing. So,
yeah. And that can be entrepreneurship, starting anything new, but just being transparent on the journeys. Because, I get that too. Like, oh, you guys are doing such cool stuff. Like, you get to set your schedules. You get all this freedom. And it just looks so sexy sometimes just to be able to do those things. And don't get me wrong, a lot of it is, but a lot of it's not. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. So that is why I really wanted to talk about this today.
Yeah, so we chose a few different categories of, some of the unsexy things about being an entrepreneur. And so one of the first ones, Carlie, that we thought about was loneliness. As an entrepreneur, sometimes it just feels like you can't identify with everybody. Like, you can't talk to everybody about these issues about what you're going through because they don't quite get it.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably one of the things that surprised me the most is I didn't realize how lonely I would be sometimes. And this is aside from like, well, if you do work alone and, you know, you like learn to be self-sufficient alone, and that's fine. But like, it's hella lonely. Like if you think of going from a workplace just in general where you have coworkers every day to now you are your workplace and you might be working at Starbucks or from home. Like there can be extended periods of time where you're just working on things where you're not talking to people. And when you talk to people, sometimes it's hard because they don't necessarily understand that your days are so different and they might not be able to understand what you're going through.
For me, I like working alone and I like having my own space. When I say loneliness, for me it's more of the latter part where, hey, when I do want to talk about something or I just don't want to hear you telling me like what my life is when I'm trying to tell you like what it really is. So I feel like a lot of times it's not, you're not necessarily getting the support you want from your friends. And you know what's always interesting to me is that the people who have known you the longest sometimes are the ones that's the hardest to talk to when you're doing something different versus, like I said, strangers online or anybody who just kind of sees you and they're just going with the flow. But people who know you from when you did used to work somewhere or from whatever, it's like, girl, what are you doing? Or, oh man, everything looks so awesome. And then when you try to tell them what's going on, it's just tough, I think.
It is. And I was trying to think, I don't know if anybody back home or if a lot of people could actually tell people what I do. Like, they're like, man, what's Carlie up to? I mean, she doing a lot. That's pretty much
same.
what people gonna say. I don't think they actually know. And so just on the macro level, like, yeah, it's just you are alone a lot, but also you're going through a lot of experiences by yourself that might also be hard to communicate to other people because they just might not get it. Like, oh, what do you mean? Like, you had a bad day. Like, you get to do what you want all day when it's not really
Which is
bad.
why it's important then to develop, like, those circles. So we talked about developing your inner circle. And now I feel like the more you are on a track to be an entrepreneur or having your own business, even if you have certain side projects or whatever you want to call them, I think you automatically start to realign with other people who are doing something similar. There's a lot of workspaces like 1776 in DC, Vector 90 here, WeWorks, things like that. And I think that's good. Like you still want to keep your friends, but it's good to connect with other entrepreneurs and other people as well because they'll understand you. For example, like I could talk to Carlie about something and I feel like she would get it a lot more than maybe some of my other friends. So you definitely just have to develop that other circle around people who get it.
You do, and either find yourself co-working spaces like you mentioned. I've never been to one in DC, but here, like Vector 90 in South Central, they're amazing. You can meet other entrepreneurs and work with people or friends. Like me and Lex will be like, yo, what you doing this week? I need to get some work done. And it's nice to go somewhere and just do work together because it kind of holds you accountable. Because being an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, having your own thing, you're accountable to yourself.
Yeah, that's true. So, and it's weird because all these things are like good and bad. Like it's like there's two sides to all of it, I guess. And so really, even when we talk about these things, it's not necessarily complaining about it because you can choose to focus on like, what's the benefits of it, right? Like I don't have somebody who has to tell me to do anything. I don't have anybody who has to check my work or whatever. But at the same time, I have to have a lot of self-discipline. That's another thing that kind of goes with this being like just you, having the self-discipline, having your own, having your mindset, like I'm going to do this, I'm not going to stray away from it. And those things are difficult too. So, you know, sometimes accountability is good. So that could be kind of part of that whole loneliness thing too, where I just feel like it's me and I'm just doing whatever I want. So it's easy to float off and, you know, not necessarily stick to the script that I should. So I would say I like being by myself, but I do want to talk to people.
Yeah, and I love, you know, working by myself. I love alone time. I'm an extrovert, but I say I'm an introverted extrovert because I do need alone time to recharge. And alone time, I mean, I can spend time with people and just not talk, and that's fine too. But I really need that space to recharge. But whenever it's just you all the time, and unless you make yourself be around people, that's very different.
Or it's easy to seclude yourself too if you're not careful, I guess. That's a good thing. So, and that's maybe more so where I fall. I don't necessarily that I always feel lonely, but I'll feel secluded. But then I start liking it too much, and I'm like, I should get out and deal with people. I should get out. Another thing, though, is the security and stability, because I feel like a lot of people, like I said, they just see that you're working and they see that you're making ends meet. And I say that because it's like, not on the street or anything, but if you know I have a business and you're like, wow, I see you're successful and you're doing this and that, and you're getting interviewed and you're on these panels, and it's like, yeah, that's cool, but a lot of this stuff, especially at the beginning, is not like somebody paying you to do every little thing. Like, you're out here hustling, you're out here, all the money I'm making was kind of just going right back into it, paying other people. So it's not like we're out here being rich. And I think a lot of people kind of use that as a joke, like, oh, how you got it and you're good and give me $7, Lex. And I'll be like, that's my last $7.
Exactly. I got $7 in the bank right now.
Right. I don't have it. So how do you feel about finances as an entrepreneur?
That's part of the romanticization. Is that the word? Romanticization of an entrepreneur, right? Like, that we have all this money and that because we're doing these companies, like, clearly we got it together, whenever a lot of the times, unless you have access to those resources, like family money, a huge savings account, a trust fund, and Lord knows I have none of those things. And so for finances, for me, like, looking at my bank account, it was a really dumb decision because I don't have any promised income, but I had this thing this thing that I believed in enough to go out there. But in order to support my dream until it pays for itself, I'm hustling. I have like 6 hustles on the side that give me a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there to put all the pieces together to live on, then also to pay for my dreams.
One thing I always tell people when they ask me about quitting their job, or, well, at what point should I quit, and or should I continue to do this and work at my job? And I'm always like, absolutely. Like, stay at your job. Use your job to fund your other work that you care about. Yes, it takes a lot of extra work, a lot of extra hustle, but you need health insurance, you need benefits sometimes. Some people who have families, and I'm lucky that with me, all I have to super worry about is myself. And so, taking that risk isn't putting kids at risk as well. So I always get it. Like, I'm never going to be that person to tell somebody entrepreneurship's the only way, or owning your own business is the only way. I think everybody should have a desire to want to create and have something that they own. But for anybody who's just like, I like my job, I'm glad, as long as you like your job. For anybody who has something going on the side, use your job. Like, let that fund it. So I also want to say, when it comes to security and stability, like, it's not easy. And I've seen some people who have left their jobs and their entrepreneurship venture didn't really work out the way they wanted. And now it's kind of like, now we're kind of trying to figure out what am I going to do next. So I think that you still need to be realistic about that, and about the finances you need and what you're doing.
No, very much so. And also, like, people's level of risk, like you said, due to families, but also their personal, like, need for stability and their risk aversion. People are very different, and they don't necessarily understand it. For me, like, I liked being an engineer, and I did have money, and I was, like, stable and secure and had all that, but I was so unhappy that for me it just wasn't worth it.
Not worth it, yeah.
And I can't imagine doing that again. Like, I would rather have 6 side hustles to do this than just one job and do it on the side, but that doesn't work for everybody.
One of the guys who's on the panel with me in DC, his name's Jeff Tribble. He runs the Musicianship, which is a nonprofit focused on music and youth.
Oh, that's dope.
And he was like, I still have my job. Like, we keep it real with people. He was like, I make like 90-something with my job, and something similar or more with the nonprofit. So it's like, okay, just because, and some people can take on more, right? So some people might not be able to have the bandwidth to do job and then handle that, because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of extra work. But for him, he just got his house, and he's like, listen, I want to make sure I'm straight. And so I don't even know when I'll leave that or if I will, which means I guess he enjoys what he does. But, it's okay. And I think it's good to keep it real about the fact that, there's been times when I've thought about, like, is there a job I might want to look at? Like, there's definitely times that I've looked at other stuff, or for me, though, like you said, it just never has been worth it, because I'll be like, how much are these people paying? Like, I pay my people who work with me more than that. And I'm like, I know, another thing with finances, I know that anytime I need some money, I find it. Like, and my biggest issue is, I'm like, why am I not like that all the time? Why am I not that hungry all the time? Literally, I can make money appear out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden, when I'm like, oh shoot, I need this for something coming up, or to hit some goal or whatever, I can think about like, who did I talk to before? Who can I send a proposal to? Can I ask them like, oh, didn't you need a speaker? And somehow like I'll make it work. You just hustle it up, right? Yeah. So it's not always a cool way to live, but I'm like, man, I know I can make that happen. I want to make that regular. So to not have to stress about money is do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that piece of mind. Exactly. If that's what works for you, keep your job, do your stuff on the side until it pays for itself. And if not, you'll be hustling. But I think that can become a whole nother stressor. It's a good thing because like we can make it happen, right? Thank God that anytime I've ever needed something, but staying that hungry because you literally eat what you kill. Like if you don't, like think back to like caveman days, they had to kill things to eat, and that's essentially what being an entrepreneur is. Even though I want to dispel the myth that having a job is stable, because they can fire your ass tomorrow, and you don't have a job. That's true. And it just is. So that's kind of a false sense of security that people get lulled into. Like, oh, if I stay here, people get fired after 30 years for some nonsense. And
I think what's important is just about where you want to be, and where you're comfortable with being.
Yeah, and what you want to do, like making sure like your job is not sucking the life out of you, and that you're so upset that you start to take it out on yourself or your family or your friends or just become unhappy. So, but back to finances.
But when it comes to the eating what you kill, I think that's also sometimes that's how we start at a level with entrepreneurship and owning a business when we don't have that overhead and when we don't have that $50K credit card that we can just max out to start something like a lot of other folks that I know can do, which is awesome for them. Awesome. I started with my laptop and me, and everything I made just went back into it. And you're kind of, sometimes you can get stuck in like freelancer/contractor mode to where you're trading your time for money. And I think the goal is to get out of that stage to where you have another you. Now you know, more of running stuff, right? Like that's kind of been one of the biggest challenges for me as an entrepreneur, especially when you're service-based. And I read this book called The E-Myth, which is really, really good for anybody interested in entrepreneurship, or if you have your own business, read The E-Myth. I forgot his first name. His last name is Gerber, I think, Gerber. But he talks about like how do you get out of those phases to where, you know, if I was to be gone for a week, nothing would happen. No money would be generated. That's really just you owning a job instead of it being like you're really like starting a company. And so we want to try to get out of those loops of where everything's dependent on your time, everything's dependent on your bandwidth, to really try to grow, which means making things productized, which means creating better systems, all of those things. So it's a really, really good book. And that was one of the first things that opened my mind to like, I don't even feel good talking about like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur because I'm really, you know what I mean? Like if I took a nap right now, it's like, well, that's
money.
Right. It's like I'm paying like to not make money right now. And so how do you get out of that? So I think it's really important to keep it real about money and you trading your time and how do you not do that, or, you know, it depends on your business model, but really making sure that your business model makes sense for you.
Yeah, and I think that part is growth, right? I met with one of the people who I would consider a business mentor, and he was like, all right, so what does your program look like without you?
Exactly.
And I was like, wait, what do you...
And then you'd be like,
I was like, wait, what do you mean without me? He was like, because it's just you selling your services. He's like, if they can't replicate it, if you can't scale it, it's not a business, it's just you. And he was like, that's great that you can do that, but what happens whenever you're not there? And for me, I'm worried about impact as well as money, right? Impact is my main focus, money is the byproduct. But what happens, like, if I'm not there to teach my services or to create the curriculum or to do those things, I'm like, well, dang, I got to figure out how to scale myself without me being there.
Making those videos and selling them, making your courses, making digital products, like those types of things. But it's interesting because to the point you just made, that's really kind of another thing that's unsexy about entrepreneurship is having to learn / do biz dev / as you getting these new tips. Now I have to do that while I'm trying to actually do client stuff or try to make money at the same time too. And so a lot of times I find with me, I'm like, man, I know I need better systems for this, or I need to make a little manual for my contractors so I'm doing less with them. But that's so much extra time, and that's my time, right? That's not even a client paying me. So there's a lot of like the biz dev and learning that you have to do at the same time. Everything's all at once.
Everything, yeah, and you let something slip, and then you're like, oh. So it is learning how to create those systems. And I think that's the hard part, is if you've never done it, you don't know how to do it if you've never seen it done. And you can read a book, and that's a lot of dones in one sentence, but you can read a book about it. Like, I went to business school, and people can tell you how to be an entrepreneur all day, but as soon as you take your first couple steps, it is an entirely different experience, because also we're different, and what we're doing is different.
And if you're running a type of business where you need to think about your own biz dev or managing or sales, all of that stuff, and also are doing some kind of service, do you have any tips for how to kind of maintain that?
Repeat that one more time.
Do you have any tips for how to maintain when doing that biz dev, sales, your internal stuff, and maintaining the client stuff as well?
It really just comes down to systems, and we keep saying that. So for me, what my systems look like,
it makes or breaks you,
is using like Asana or Trello, which are project management softwares, and I have different boards for each of the things that I'm doing. And this is like recent that I started doing this. And so each day I start, my day, I set the tone, I don't nod on my phone, I do my affirmations and my yoga and all that stuff. But when it's time to work, I go to my boards and I look at what I need to do for today. And then I create a to-do list and then make sure that things get done. But it's creating those systems and actually continuing to check in with them so that you don't let balls drop. Because inevitably you're going to forget something. You're going to forget to send a newsletter for a client. You're going to forget these things. But the best way to fail-safe that is to actually create a system or like a processes.
For me, kind of similar, I would say having a routine. A lot of times I would spend the beginning of my day focused on client work or work that was paying me, and then try at the end of the day to then focus on my stuff. But at that point, my brain is like dead. So I feel like it's always best for me, like the best routine I've had, and I say had because I'm always changing it because I always need to refresh, try something new. But for me, the best routine I've had was getting up and letting that be the first thing I do is my focus on like, all right, the sales, who do I need to get back to about stuff? Who can I reach out to about, can I speak here? Can I do this? Like, what's going on? Doing my own like social for like work stuff and all that. And then getting to client work, because otherwise it's real easy, and it's crazy that it's so easy for us to do this, but the stuff I'm doing for my clients, I'm like, sometimes I'll let it drop and not do it for me. And I'm like, I'll let myself be last, and then, all right, I'm getting all y'all stuff done. It's like, I'm tired. I'm done. I'm not going to do mine. Yeah. And weeks will go by, and months will go by, and you're like, dang, I still ain't finished that course I thought I was going to make. Yeah. Which would help me to be more productized or more systematized. But again, I always know that when I start working on those extra things, as soon as I started, now it's like, all right, I'm really into it. So I just have to schedule out specific time.
Yeah, you really do. But that's the thing is, if I'm not working on things that I care about, like my stuff too, then I have a lot less passion, a lot less energy to work on other people's stuff. And it's almost like my inner child kind of revolts, where I'm like, oh, you're not going to do your stuff? We don't want to do that other stuff either. And so I just don't end up doing anything. Which we talked about killing what we eat, and you be looking real sad and hungry.
Right, and then all of a sudden it's the end of the month, and you're like, ooh,
I gotta pay rent in a couple of days.
Yeah. So, I mean, as an entrepreneur, again, you have to have that self-discipline. And so you don't, and we talked about it in another episode too, where it's like, you can't, some days you're not gonna feel like it, right? But you literally have to get stuff done. I mean, I guess the same as having a job, right? But in this case, it's like, it ain't no take a vacation sometimes. Which for me can lead to a lot of anxiety. So for me, that's another really unsexy side of entrepreneurship. A lot of the people that I know who are business owners or deal with some type of entrepreneurship deal with a lot of anxiety as well. For me, my mind is always going, and sometimes my friends make fun of me because I could be at like the kickback or whatever, and they're talking, and my brain is just like, damn, think about this stuff I need to do, or what else is going on. We could be podcasting right now, and I'm thinking like, dang, it's like some stuff I need to be doing right after this or right now. Right, exactly. So my brain is always ridiculous, and I hate it, which has made space for me to, again, and this is the way I deal with everything, which is good because we love learning, we love like figuring things out, right? So as soon as I recognize a problem, what can I do? How do I learn more about mindfulness? I'm doing my using my Calm app. I'm trying to get into yoga a little bit more. Shout out to Carlie. A little breathing exercise that she taught me and stuff. But, you have to figure that out. Like, what's something just so I can, like, quiet it and be focused in the present instead of being in my head so much.
Oh my God, it's about being present and being able to enjoy the moment. Everywhere I go, I'm like, I am the bag lady that Erykah Badu be talking about.
Yeah, she is.
Because I always have to have my
food. She came up in here with 6 bags.
My food, my workout clothes, my change of clothes after I take a shower and I work out.
6 gallons of water.
I'm gonna be thirsty.
She's thirsty, boy. She do be thirsty.
But I have to be intentional to be present, and in order to do that, my system. So if I'm like, okay, me and Lex are going to a kickback, right? We gonna chill. All my stuff has to be done because otherwise, I will be at the kickback on my laptop or on my phone trying to schedule tweets and write a newsletter and do stuff that I should have had done.
That's why I don't go anywhere anymore because I'm always like, yeah, I should be doing this. But then what sucks is I'll find myself sometimes being like, I'm not gonna go to this tonight because I have all this stuff to do, and then still be in my room like,
nah,
I'ma chill.
And that's the balance.
You still don't do anything. So it's like I should have just went out.
I should have just went out because I'm not doing anything at home. And it's crazy because my mind will be going a million miles an hour. I'm thinking, okay, me and Lex are talking about this. I'm excited about this project. I have this client, but man, I want to ideate about this thing that I thought about in the future. But then I want to talk to a friend, and then so much happens that nothing gets done, and you're just looking at yourself like.
And then you just get tired. You'll get exhausted just from thinking too much.
And I just have to take a nap. It's like you have so much stuff to
do.
Take a nap.
That's what I be doing. Procrastinating. And then you get even more stressed and have even more anxiety. There was a time, Carlie, gosh, not too far ago, before I just recently moved, maybe like a year ago, because I haven't had it recently, thank gosh, but there was a time where I started waking up every morning and feeling like I was having a heart attack. Like, I had never really had, real anxiety attacks. I don't even know if it was quite that bad. Yeah, panic attack. I'd wake up and my first thought was, shit, I have so much. And, I would literally feel it manifest in my chest, and my chest would be so tight, and I'm, trying to breathe, all right, relax, you're fine. And my brain always knows I'm fine. I'm literally never worried about anything. I'm all right, girl, anytime I'm I forgot something or I wasn't prepared for something, the meeting ends up changing. It's always, every time, never that serious. Or I'll go into the meeting and I know how to kind of BS around what I need to say and get to, even though I didn't finish something else, and it's it's fine. But I would wake up stressed out, and I could not get back to a chill mode. And it's I hate that. I hated it. And it kept happening, it was maybe a few weeks at least. And I just had to figure out a morning routine. I had to figure out a night routine, making sure I'm not seeing are my screen and certain work stuff before I even go to sleep. Because it's all right, give yourself time to wind down, give yourself time in the morning to get to it, which we talked about before as far as not being on your phone and stuff like that. But yeah, that just does not feel good to feel constantly pulled and constantly I cannot relax. I've never really had problems with sleeping. Have you ever had problems with sleeping?
No,
I know some people who talk about that.
One thing I'm blessed with is the ability to pass out. At any given time. I can be somewhere and be knocked, and I'm just thank God, because I sleep good.
I feel you on that. I do sleep well. It's just.
So for these panic attacks or these anxiety moments, so having a routine is what helps you kind of get through that?
Maybe. And I think you just have to talk to yourself. You have to tell yourself, Lex, relax. And I would do, on my Calm app, I like Calm app a lot because, and that's kind of what I was getting to too, is that everybody I know who deals with entrepreneurship, they all talk about meditating. Because there's, like we said earlier, you're everything. You're doing so much. You're in charge of so many things and so many aspects of your business. And then you have life too, right? Outside of all this stuff as well. So it's so important. And by meditating, before I really got into it, it's you're thinking you're clearing your mind. And it's not necessarily that, but just being mindful, being present, centering yourself back to right now. And that's helpful because you're only thinking about right now, what matters right now, what's going on around me. I noticed I could go through the whole day and I didn't really see anything. I wasn't really listening to anybody who was talking to me. I just wasn't there. I was in my own thoughts the whole time. And that's just a huge thing. And you have to get out of that, or else it's kind of you're just stuck and you're just going crazy in your mind.
Well, think about how much you miss out on life when you're always in your own head. And meditation is not easy for me.
I didn't realize how hard it was until you start.
Until you actually
Because you'd be like 30 seconds and you'd be like, all right, it's been 10 minutes.
Yeah,
You're like, dang, I cannot even get through without
I started
stopping and think about something.
The way I got into meditation was at the end of yoga.
Mm-hmm.
After I work my body and I'm so tired and I'm in Shavasana and I'm like, oh, that's what yoga's for. Yoga is actually not for your body, it's for your mind.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you learn to be present with yourself and with your mat, because in reality you can't control anything else except for you and what's going on in your mat. And so it's a good metaphor for life. But meditation in general just helps you learn to be present and to redirect your thoughts. Like, you can never stop your thoughts from coming, but you can learn to be present with them and to sit with them and not be overtaken by them.
I'm having this thought. This is this or this is that.
Yeah.
It's not this. Okay.
And process.
Process
and then let it go.
And that sounds kind of ridiculous, but that's what you have to do. Otherwise, it's just like it's there and it's there and it's turning into something else, and it's like, oh my gosh.
And there's a lot of science behind it. Like, we'll do a whole episode on mindfulness and yoga and all that stuff, but there's a lot of science for skeptical people. Like, trust me, I get it. Meditation is not easy and it sounds crazy, but there's so much science behind why it works. So we'll definitely, And
I like mine guided too. I like, so with Calm App, they have different categories, which I really like. So there's categories around certain emotions, there's categories around anxiety release, there's categories around forgiveness and self-healing, like all these different things, right? So even depending on how I'm feeling, sometimes I'll switch it up. And I think they have like a daily one too, where it's just whatever the lady has planned for the day. And I'll typically do like a 10 minutes. And I noticed too, as soon as I even try to close my eyes, I'm like immediately everywhere else. And so it's almost easier for me to keep my eyes open and meditate and like focus on a spot, because then I'm listening to her more as she's kind of talking. But I like the guided, because I like how she's like, and if you feel like you've started thinking about something else, and I'm like, damn, she got me every time.
She got me, bro.
Right, every time she got me. She's like, it's okay, just come back to the breath. I'm like, okay, you're right. But Carlie, I know she should be so excited to be such a wonderful influence on my life. She got me into starting yoga. And I started trying to do the 30-day challenge with Adrienne, because she's like pretty on point. She's so funny and like cute. And they're like 30 minutes long. But every time, like, that's how my barometer for me, success with things like yoga and meditation, things that require me to be right in the present and don't think about other things, but let those other thoughts kind of go for right now. My barometer for success with that is like, all right, at what point do I be like, let me check the time. Like, how much longer do we have on the YouTube video, right, when I'm doing the yoga? And at first it was like, I'll do 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, all right, like, how much longer? And like, dang, like, that's as far as I got before I started thinking about, I got other stuff to do. And I'll get to 10, 17 minutes, and I'm like, all right. And I start to notice I'm trying to go a little longer. And now I'm more aware of when I start thinking like that, like, I won't check, but I'm like, all right, you're starting to get antsy already now. Just try to go a little longer, keep going with it. And there's only a couple times I like cut it, because I'm like, all right, dog. I'm like, I gotta do something else. Yeah. But it's just wild how your brain can feel. So I wonder if any of you guys feel like that. If you feel like your mind is pulled in a bunch of different directions, and how you deal with that.
Yeah, I would say, how do you deal with it, or how have you been able? Like, what has worked for you? And it might not be meditation. What I was gonna say. So Calm App is great, and it has a woman's voice. Headspace has a man's voice. They're a little bit different. They both have pretty much the same offerings for different categories and links and things. But there's also moving meditation. So for people who are like, sitting still is not a thing for me. Like, it's dynamic mindfulness.
I like the walking ones too.
Yeah, there's walking meditation, there's moving, there's stretching. That's not necessarily yoga. So there's ways to find your mindful connection that aren't just sitting here like, because oming is not for everybody. And that's fine.
And that's not the meditation I do anyway. Yeah. That's like Russell Simmons, his is like that, where he has they have like a chant, or what do you call it?
Well, chanting. Yeah, chanting.
And you say the same thing over and over, or kind of like what you see in cartoons. So there are lots of different styles.
So if you've tried any of those, or if you do stuff that's not mindfulness, please, screenshot it, shout it out, share it with us.
But boiling that all down, so feeling like you're always on the edge, which kind of can come with that sometimes, feeling anxiety is definitely an unsexy side of entrepreneurship. And I think it's becomes a side effect or a symptom of you just doing a lot, and
the most
you need to take time to let things process and just slow down sometimes.
I think that's
which we don't ever want to hear
ever. I think it's indicative of life, though. I think everybody kind of goes through, but being an entrepreneur, I feel like, amplifies those things, because it is you, and you are going all the time, and you feel like, if I stop moving, like, I'm lazy or that I'm not making money. Or,
yeah, you'll feel bad about it, and that brings another anxiety.
It does, and then you're also not taking care of yourself, and which I think is one of the hardest parts is you feel guilty for resting, you feel guilty for taking a break, you feel guilty for having fun with your friends. When you're like, man, I didn't meet my financial goals this month, I shouldn't be spending money, but you have to do things to take care of yourself, and that's been one of like the biggest lessons I've had to learn being an entrepreneur is literally like if I'm not taking care of myself,
carve the time out.
Cannot take care of anything else. And also I feel real blasphemous because of what my business is. I'm literally talking about health, mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
But if I'm not doing it, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Like how can I preach that if I'm not walking in it and taking action?
And then when you're not kind of walking in that, you're kind of getting off. Like, it's not quite in sync the right way as it should be, too.
And people feel it, too.
Yeah.
And they know the difference. So, that, yeah. I mean, there's just a lot to life. But like I said, I feel like being an entrepreneur just amplifies that, like, time management.
But, Carlie.
Yes, ma'am.
You live by the beach.
I do.
You
Praise
be
God.
going to the beach. I be seeing your Instagram stories. You be out here at these parties getting tattoos and stuff. Not with me. Nah, you be dragging me out there too.
Dragging.
But you could do whatever you want. Like, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and that's a blessing. But it's a double-edged sword, like we alluded to earlier. Like, yes, I can spend all day on the beach, but then I might not be able to pay my rent.
Right.
And so anytime that you see what I'm sharing, like, know that I selectively share my life. I share what I want to share with people.
That's the worst too, when people think exactly that's what you're doing all the time. It's only what you show. It's like, bro, you ain't seen me do all this other stuff before.
I was at the
I went
beach.
to the pool.
I live really close to the beach. Like, thank God. God be looking out. Like, I don't know how I manifested that, but I'm going to keep going. But I live really close to the beach, so it doesn't take me a long time to get there. I might spend an hour at the beach reading a book, laying there, getting some sun, and just enjoying, like, breathing. I might just breathe and look at the ocean. But I might only be there for an hour. Right. And then I'm taking my behind back to my house, grabbing all of my 50-11 bags to go do some more work. Driving across town to come hang out with Lex, and then we're doing work. And
it's more about how you choose to spend your time, because for me and with my work, when my brain's not there, when my brain's dead, it's dead. And so I don't try to ever force it. So sometimes it looks like every day is different, and every day sometimes is different, because if I'm in the zone, like I'm in the zone. If I'm not, then that's when I'll be like, all right, let me just go take a break. Let me go on a walk. Let me do whatever. Go to the pool. Do something.
Yeah.
But like you said, it doesn't mean like I have all the time to do whatever I want to do. Like I'm still very much attached to having to get certain things done. And I think that people think that's so sexy as an entrepreneur. Like, oh, you get to do whatever you want. And like you said, you kind of do, but every choice has its consequences, whether that's good or bad. So
yep. Return on investment.
Yeah.
It's opportunity cost. So yes, I might go to the beach for an hour, but that's an hour I'm not working, I'm not talking with clients. But that hour,
which is okay, because that might be important for you or important for other reasons.
And to pour into myself so that I can be my better self, my best self when I'm with my clients or when I'm with a friend developing a business idea. But that is the unsexy side is, okay, yes, we don't have a set schedule, which is beautiful. And so one day I could sleep in, but at the same time, we have to set our own schedule, right? So we have to figure out a routine that works for us.
And sometimes you have to work a lot longer than it. Like when I have had a 9 to 5, like right after school for a year or two, cool. I go in 9, leave at 5, bet. Like I do whatever I want to do. I know a lot of people now, people's jobs go with them. Like it seems like a lot of people's job is almost like an entrepreneurship, like they own a business minus the when of it's actually yours.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people do live like this period, right? So even if you have a job, sometimes you go home and it's like people still emailing you to do stuff, or you have to take work home and finish things at home too. And that's tough because, like you said, you want to make sure that you're just not letting yourself slip and that you're still taking care of yourself. But sometimes I am up late, or sometimes I have to get up early, or sometimes I think maybe more so what it is because I don't even really like count my hours like that to be like, I'm an entrepreneur, I work 100 hours a week. Like, I don't. No, I don't. And I know I don't. But I have a certain set of hours I know are like client and billable hours, and there's a whole nother set of hours that's me, having, like we said, doing biz dev and doing everything else. But what gets me is the fact that somehow it feels like I'm always working.
Always.
So it ain't.
Right.
It's not even like a clock in and out. It's just like it's always something that whether I'm thinking about something or I'm checking the email or doing whatever. Like I'm just always working. And again, with these unsexy things, I don't think you have to experience them, right? So like we said, if I have better systems, if I have, my own boundaries set for my work, it could be whatever you want. I know people who they say, all right, I only work from 8 to 11 and they're done. Or, they do their work the way it makes sense for them. And they've been able to super maximize their time. Maybe they do group consulting. I have 5 people I consult for an hour once a week and they can make just as much as maybe me doing the most for like 4 days in a row. So it's about figuring out that best system for you. But again, the time to build it and the time to really be involved can definitely be a lot.
It's a lot, and figuring out that balance, and it's trial and error, right? So you think, okay, I'm gonna get up every day at 6 a.m. and you try these things with clients and it just doesn't work. And you're like, okay, well, let me start over and try again. You really have to figure out what works for you. Like you said, like in the morning, because your brain is there, you like to sometimes work on your stuff then and then do your client stuff. But that was only through trial and error. So we're talking about the unsexy side because I think it's important to share all of the stuff that they don't tell you about, all the stuff that the books don't tell you about when they romanticize these
or when you do
stories.
Hear these things, like believe it, like it's not because and it's still, we can even say all this stuff and it's still like, wow, it sounds like a challenge, and it is. And I think that's part of what's weird about me, and I like because I like figuring it out, and I like this challenge, and I like building my own life. I think that's why I like more than anything. Like I can't blame anybody for anything that happens besides me, like
but you dog.
Right. And so that gives me a lot of power because I'm creating my life. And that sounds like all in the sky, the secret, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But you do. And everything I do boils down to my decisions, and I live with them. Like if I take this nap after we finish this podcast, like I'm going to be mad later and I'm going to live with it. But, I can keep going to work, whatever. But, I just know I'm going to get things done, I guess, at the end of the day. But what, Carlie, for you, what does a typical day look like for you? Like, what does tomorrow look like?
I don't have a typical day. I do have an employment. I work at a gym.
Like you should?
No. I don't.
I feel like I should.
I mean, I do have things, like I have a routine that I need to do for myself. Like when I wake up in the mornings, I like to boil ginger and lemon water and drink that and not be on my phone for 30 minutes. I try to get in a little bit of meditation and just stretching, not even really a whole yoga routine, but just some stretching to try to wake my body up and feel good. I need to work out. Like these are all things that have to happen, but they don't happen at the same times every day.
That's part of entrepreneurship. What about your work?
So,
or that's what we're saying, I guess, is that is like a part of it.
That is a part of my work because I work at a gym and I have to teach early in the mornings. I don't have to. I get to teach early in the mornings. And so I want to make sure I have my best self together before I go teach. So I have to have my routines and everything lined out. I go teach, and then after that, then I got to figure out, okay, well, when am I going to get my workout in? Am I going to go do clients' work right now or mine? I also coach volleyball. So right now, we have practices 3 times a week. We typically have 3 games a week. So my schedule is just all over the place. So it's figuring out how to fit in all of those things with what I'm doing.
So devil's advocate, for me to listen to that, okay, so you have to go to the gym. You have to take some kids to volleyball. You're coaching. Like, all right, that doesn't sound hard.
Yeah. Holding space for people, being a trainer, is a lot different, I think, for me, because I really try to show up and hold space for them. And whenever you spend so much time with people,
you have to have your energy together.
Yeah, and I have to have enough energy outside of that to also deal with my clients. Like I have other clients that have nothing to do with coaching volleyball, with doing personal training. And whenever I show up for my volleyball girl, like I want to make sure that I'm all the way there. My brain isn't in all of the side work that I'm doing in social media marketing or branding strategy. It's not there. And some of the assistant work and things that I'm helping with other people. So it's finding ways to make all the ends meet and to still create the life that I want to live. I love that you said that because it really is creating the life that I want to live. Like I hope this doesn't come off as complaining, because it's not, because I'm super blessed and grateful. But I do think it's important to be very transparent, like I said earlier, along the journey. And that these are just some things that we go through. And I shared in hopes that people know that they're not going through it alone. And that maybe your journey looks a little bit different. I would love to hear about yours too and things that you do to deal with it. But it is important to put it out there.
I have a question for you. My question to you, Carlie, is is there anything that could be in place that could make you want to take a job for a company?
I don't think so at this time. Because it would be like, it would just be them, like, paying me, like, a contract to, like, work for them, but I would still run things my way, like a director's role where I don't have to be in an office. So I'd still be doing the same thing, just taking a check. Okay. That would probably be it. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
I would, if there was a right opportunity that came to me, I would take it. So that's again my thing is like, it's not just about, entrepreneurship is whatever. But I mean, if somebody was like, here's $400,000 to do this job, and what time do I clock in? I'm gonna be there. And I would either, but what I would like though is for there to be certain things in place. Like you said, there's been times where people have kind of reached out to me about working, and I'm like, I'm listening, but do I have space to go do my trainings or go speak? And what freedoms will I have? But sometimes I do miss the systems and miss the, just going into a place, everything's created for you and in place, and so it just relies on my knowledge. But again, very quickly, sometimes it gets old, like being a part of somebody else's system. So, would you change if you could? I guess would you ever give up on being an entrepreneur, even with loneliness, or even with anxiety, even with having to deal with time management, all these things?
No. There are some days I don't want to get out of bed, and I don't know how to, and I have cried, like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I would not trade it because, like I said, I'm really impact focused, and I feel like this is the best way to do it, and I wouldn't trade this journey for anything. Like, I'm just grateful to be here and to be able to have these, like, I can't call them first world problems, but like these entrepreneurship problems, which I feel like a lot of people have, but entrepreneurship just amplifies.
And at different levels, there's different issues, right? Because, we're talking about a lot of the issues that come with trying to start and create things and with the bootstrapping, all that. There's people who can take an idea, pitch it, get millions of dollars, and they, as an entrepreneur, though, they still have their own set of very similar problems around dealing with other people, building teams, or their own ego, or their anxiety, or the time management, all that stuff still. Ego is one of the biggest things that has been an issue for me, which is why I love Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. It's one of my favorite books. Like, as soon as I finished reading it, I started it again because there were so many things in there about how I'm viewing myself as a part of my job. And I think now, I didn't mean to go back into more other unsexy things, but your identity being wrapped up into what you're doing, and so when you lose things, or if I lose a client or something happens, it's like more shattering to me. Like there's so many things with the wins, the losses, all of that. So like ego is a huge thing, but I don't think I would change my entrepreneurial journey either because of what I said before. I just love that I create my own life. So if I wanted to go do something else, I could go do it. I would go do it, but I feel like I've come so far and I see potential. So it's like once you are running and you start to see the finish line, it's easier to not want to like hop off the track.
Yeah, not to say I haven't ever Googled jobs, because I definitely like, that salary, look at that bonus. Yeah. Like, it would be great, 100%. But I also want to say, like, if you are an entrepreneur and like starting things, but you have a job, like, that's good too. And there may be a time where I might have employment and I'll eat these words, but I still will be creating the life that I want to live, regardless. Yep. Like,
there's always going to be things that are important to us and that we're going to want to create and do.
Yeah, and I don't have to not have a job or a steady form of employment with someone else to do that.
Carlie, would you keep doing this podcast?
Of course. Don't leave me, Lex.
Don't quit on me. Don't quit on us.
But we wanted to do this as a launch pad into probably a decently regular series about like lessons learned in entrepreneurship and along our journeys through creating not necessarily just businesses, but passion projects and hobbies and things that we're doing. And we'll be bringing in some pretty dope people who are maybe doing the same thing, sharing their journeys if they're creatives or business people, talking about ego and bootstrapping, which we'll talk about that.
It's so interesting
later.
how a lot of my friends who are entrepreneurs are, who are starting their own things even while they're working or whatever. We all have very similar stories, but then, like, there's always that similar strand of taking risk and of, wow, things just started happening when I actually went this direction, and now it makes it easier to keep going. Yes. But then they can bring in their own personal stories as well and talk about what they're doing too. So there's so many lessons, so much to learn from. For anybody who's in LA, if you feel like you want to be a guest right now, we want people to come in so you can be lovely on the screen and talk to us. But we want to definitely start talking to more people too. So we want to share your stories. And if you ever comment us or leave an email, if you want us to like ever read your stories or read what you have to say, then I mean, if it's appropriate, I'll be happy to do that too, honestly.
No, definitely. And wait, okay, go ahead and do your thing. I forgot what I was going to say. Dang it, I was excited too.
No, you go ahead and start with your shout out then.
I was going to talk about signing up for the email list because all these resources we're talking about. She just name dropped a whole bunch of books in my head. I'm like, wait, I remember that one. I don't know the other one. So we'll be putting those underneath the YouTube videos. But also we send out a newsletter. So sign up for the newsletter. If you want to be a guest or have a guest recommendation or even book recommendations, holla at us. And then for the shout out, since we're talking about entrepreneurship, I wanted to shout out two amazing entrepreneurs that I know, Niecia and Kiola. They are the owners of Kinetic Studio, which is in View Park. They've been there for a little bit over 2 years. Two Black women from the area who started their own thing. They saw a need in the community and created an amazing community space for people to come be their best selves and to build their best selves, like mind, body, and soul. It's so much more than just fitness. So
and they're so cool.
Out.
That's the good thing too, is like when you're an entrepreneur and you're working in a space, but you're also just like a cool person. Like everybody, entrepreneurship doesn't mean you're just a nerd or it's just for tech or you're just on your computer. Like it's open for whatever, and that's the beauty of it.
It is, and it's beautiful because Nicia's undergrad was in interior design, and then Kiola has a master's in nutrition and fitness, so she's like been there, done that. Professor Kiki, but it's just cool to even see their journeys and how they had this vision for the community and they're pouring their hearts into it. And so talking about entrepreneurship, I thought it was fitting. Check them out at Kinetic Studio.
And I actually have another shout out too. I'm trying to do better with my shout outs. I want to shout out my little homie. Let me not call her little homie. She probably listening right now.
What up, girl?
My girl Lekesia, who I've met in being in LA, and she is doing a tech panel with a guy named Brian Everitt. It's funny because I met him when I spoke at Black Businesswomen Rock in LA. That was maybe a couple years ago now. And then we had ran into him at Vector 90 before too, and he remembered me. But just to give y'all this information because it's coming up, they are doing what they're calling a tech Cypher. So it's focused on hip hop, tech, and culture. It's on November 3rd from 12 to 2:30. And it is, where is it at? The Wells Fargo building, so downtown. Lekesia is a UX designer. She does a lot of coding. She's like really smart.
She's so dope.
Yeah, she's really cool. I like her. She's so sweet. And anytime I'm like humming or singing, she like starts bobbing her head. So she's like just mad cool. Don't get mad. I told him that, right? She is a hype man. But you can register online at www.techcypher.eventbrite.com. You should just go, just even network, right? Like as an entrepreneur, it's so inspiring to go to things like that just to hear from different people. Like we said, sometimes you're feeling lonely, like you can identify with other people's stories, and it's a place where you can talk to people, get to meet new people. And a lot of times as an entrepreneur, like we're always thinking about new ideas. So it's like, oh, you might end up starting something with somebody. So it's really cool. I think they're gonna have like a panel and some other aspects around tech. And especially for people of color, I think it's very important that we focus on doing these types of get-togethers as well. Because sometimes you can be in the space of like startups and tech and feel like you're the only one in the room. But there's really a growing community, so
there is, and it's intersectional, like with hip hop, tech, and culture. Like I think that intersectionality has been missing, especially in tech, and so like come support Brian and Lekesia.
Yep, and we'll have the links in the show notes. So make sure you go to the show notes again for anybody we're talking about, any resources that we link. It'll be there.
And if we missing any highlighters, let us know. I can go back and add it.
Don't holler at us. Go back and listen to the podcast, rewind it, and get it, because we spelled it out at some point. But you can ask Carlie, she might add it.
I know, because I'm nice. I'm nice.
And then we have our question of the week, as always.
Our question of the week is...
Hashtag Carlie's Couch. Carlie, by the way. Because I seen a Y out there floating around one time.
Disrespectful.
Disrespecting her name. Put some respect on her name.
Some respect on my name.
Question of the week. Hashtag Carlie's Couch is Carlie.
What blessings can I count right now?
Ooh.
You know, I love to end my yoga classes. I'm just gonna go first. I love to end.
Okay.
I'm going first. I love to end all my yoga classes with gratitude.
Yeah.
Because
that's important.
Oh my God. And sometimes when you're so in your head and all over the place, you can start to get overwhelmed with finances and good God, the car, this and all this stuff is happening in the world. It's crazy. But if you stop and look at your life, like what blessings can you count? I'm gonna start and just say I made a gratitude tree.
What?
What? But I showed it to you.
Gratitude?
Yeah, a gratitude. It's a gratitude tree and just all the amazing people.
And my name was on it. That's all that matters.
Somehow she made the cut.
My name was on it.
Somehow.
Oh my God.
But I'm just, God, man, my cup so overflows with the amazing people in my life. I really could cry right now thinking about how I won't come, but I really could thinking about how amazing the people in my life are, God. Oh, man.
I'm about to say, I told you I've started getting more sensitive lately, and I think about it too sometimes. I'm like, man, like if me and Carlie did some like real cool stuff, had a cool conversation, I'm like, yo, I'm really thankful like that I got to know you. It's so perfect, like how things come together, all right, when you're feeling like I'm tired. Like I be tired, y'all, like with this entrepreneur stuff, and it's like, dang, like to get some, fresh energy, fresh boost, and something to feel more excited about sometimes. Lord, Carlie's really crying for real. Carlie's really crying. But it's awesome. And I think gratitude, I'm glad you said it that way, because that's a good thing to do at nighttime too. Like when I'm trying to like ground myself before I go to bed, because there's so many things, like I said, having the anxiety of all of that. And then it's like, okay, but this is awesome. That's awesome. For me, it's, my family, my friends, or, that, like I said, like somebody just randomly hit me like, oh, you didn't cash this check, and I didn't actually get it. And I'm like, oh, send that through. And like perfect timing, because I needed that. Like all of these things, and just knowing like stuff works out, like stuff always works out. So just like relax. And I think that's a good way to ground myself, especially before I go to bed. So thinking about your blessings, thinking about gratitude. Even if you have like a gratitude journal, I know some people do that too, where they'll write down in the morning and at night or whatever works for you. But I think that is important. So I really like that question. And for you guys, you can answer that question, what blessings can you count right now? And or, just talking about how you do stay grounded and how you do try to keep your head about you. I'm not about to spit it.
I'm about to say go. Hold it.
How you keep your head about you when it just feels like everything's just like, ugh. Because if you are an entrepreneur, you should totally get like all the stuff we're talking about. For those who aren't or who are interested in it, that's why we want to talk about it, because, it can be very tough. But as you see, we wouldn't change.
At all.
We wouldn't change it for the world. So definitely worth doing. And if you ever, I'm going to just go ahead and speak for Carlie and be like, hey, if you ever have questions or you want to be like, what do you think about this or well, I'm dealing with this, we could probably be like, yeah, we're dealing with that too. Or we have. So definitely feel free to, hit us up about anything that has to do with entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah. Thank y'all for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Come again.